Good afternoon, everyone. It is the 20th of February, and welcome to the show and tell for the Greenwich Community Directory Rebuild project. My name is Darren. I'm the DM for this fantastic team who are working on the new directory. We're a blended team drawn from across the council. We're made up of colleagues from adults, children's, digital, and our product partner, TPX Impact. We also have a range of collaborators from the same areas who we meet with quite regularly to get regular critique and feedback on our work. And you'll be hearing from some of my colleagues today. I just want to start with a quick reminder of why we are here today. All upper tier authorities in England are required to maintain a directory of community services. And these are services provided by the public, private and voluntary sectors. They can cover quite a broad range of topics. For example, to help residents live well, mental health support, financial management skills, friendship groups, things like that. It also includes the council's Send Local offer. But we knew that there were problems with our current directory, and many of these problems are faced by other councils throughout the country. So our mission is to design a community directory product that makes it easy for residents to understand and connect to the support available in their local community, that creates a more sustainable and evolved way to publish and update content for all organisations and service providers involved, and that's reusable and easy to adopt for other local authorities. To support this last aim, we've received a grant from the local digital fund, and we thank them for their support. In today's show and tell, we're going to cover four main things. We're going to look at a pivot that we're making with our technology so that you can understand some of the challenges that we faced over the last 4 weeks and the trade-offs that has involved. We'll give you a short demo of uploading service listings to the new directory so that you can get a feel for how staff and service providers will experience Outpost. We're going to ask you for some help on engaging the community so that you can help us ensure success for the GCD. And we'll give you a quick intro to the design system so that you can understand how the hard work that we're putting in up front will make our future work both easier and faster. Just a reminder, show and tell is not about us showing off our work and making us look good. We want to get feedback from you all on our work, so please do chip in with comments or questions in the chat. A diversity of views generally means we'll get a better product at the outcome. But first, I'll hand over to Alex.
Thanks, Darren, and hi everyone. I haven't met you before. I'm Alex. I'm a product manager. So I'm going to start the show and tell just by talking a bit about a recent decision that we've made that's helping us to move a little bit faster. So you might remember that last time in our last show and tell, we spoke about how we've transitioned into this next phase of our project where we're building the new directory for real. And we're taking this kind of a little bit at a time. So we're starting with the basics of a new directory, which will have quite a small number of services in to begin with. And then we'll test that with some different users to make sure that everything is working as we'd expect it to. Then, once we're happy, we'll move all of the service listings across from the adult section of the current directory and launch the new directory publicly for anyone to start using it. And then we'll be shifting our attention to moving the families and children, the young people and the Send Local offer sections across to the new directory. And we have some planning sessions in for those soon. We also explained that building the basics of a new directory actually consists of quite a few different things. So it involves creating kind of the foundations that we build our product on so we can actually make it available on the internet. It involves building the features that we need to make the directory work. So things like having categories, having filters, having the ability to search, things like that. It then involves some design decisions. So thinking about how things will be displayed to someone who's using the directory. And then finally, we need to actually get those services on there so people can start using the directory to find things that are useful for them. And in the last couple of weeks, we've decided to change our approach to the second box here after we came up against a couple of challenges. So just to remind you of our approach to building the new directory, there are two main products that we're using. One is called LocalGov Drupal and the other is called Outpost. So LocalGov Drupal is a content management system, so a place where we can really easily create the content pages for the new directory, such things like the home page or pages for information and advice that we need to include. Outpost is then a separate product that we use for managing information about services in Greenwich. And it's a separate product because it's been designed so that anyone in Greenwich who runs or leads a service can log into it, create a new listing, or edit an existing one. And this devolves some ownership of that content to the people who know most about it, which is a really useful thing. Now, obviously, we still need to get those services from Outpost onto our actual directory so that they can be viewed by people. And our original plan was to use something called local gov Drupal directories, which is quite a mouthful to say. And this is part of local gov Drupal that creates directory pages to sort of take that data and turn it into a web page that people can see. Now, we tried this before when we built a proof of concept last year. We tried combining Outpost and local gov Drupal directories together, and it worked, so we know it's possible. However, what we've realized is that there are actually quite a few unknowns with that route about the best way for us to connect everything together. So while we could see lots of different potential solutions, we just couldn't feel like quite confident enough in any one approach. And this back and forth we were having in the team about what to do about it was actually starting to slow us down a bit. But we didn't want to rush into a decision and commit to something which later turns out to like not be quite the right way. So we took a bit of a pause in the team and asked ourselves, how should we actually be approaching this? So I won't go into too much detail, but if you go to the next slide. So what we're going to do as a bit of a temporary measure is we're going to switch out local gov Drupal directories for something else. And this is a change to the bottom half of the diagram, so the top half is staying the same. So instead of local gov Drupal directories, we're going to use sort of a pre-built directory front end, which will take care of this for us, which is called Scout. And it's been built so that it connects up with Outpost to create a directory really easily. Now, it might seem a bit weird that this sort of magical product exists that creates a directory for us really easily. So just to explain that a bit more, you might remember that Outpost is a product that was created a while ago for another council, and we're picking that up and doing some work with it. And then Scout was built alongside that as an example front end. So we're essentially just reusing that as a temporary measure for us. And in the previous show and tell, we explained how we didn't really want to use Scout, as we'd rather just do everything in one place in local gov Drupal to simplify the tech that we're using. And while we still want to do that, while we figure out the best way to do it, this is quite a minor change that we can make. It's quite low effort for us to do this, but it will really speed us up in getting something out there that we can put in front of users. So if you go to the next slide, Darren. And if you want to just hit play while I talk. So if that's gone over your head a bit, do not worry. The important things that you need to know are these. So this new approach that we're taking means that we've jumped forward quite a bit. So whereas before we were having this back and forth about how to connect things together, we now already have a directory that we can actually use with almost all of the features in it that we'd planned to build in the first place. And this video on the side shows you what this looks like in practice. So this is our test environment, but that's pulling in real services that we've been moving over. And as you can see, it's working like a real directory should, and it includes lots of the features that we need, things like categories, search, different filters, all of those good things. There are a couple of features that we still want to develop, things like adding in the CQC rating for care providers, and potentially being able to send a service to someone via SMS. And that's some work that we're planning to do at the moment. The other thing we want to change is how this looks. So we'll change the styling of this so it's the same as the other content pages that we will be building in local gov Drupal, so the homepage, the advice pages. And that means that when someone uses this directory, it will be a really seamless experience. It will feel like one cohesive journey. In the future, we think we might still go back to that original plan, our original approach, but we want to take that a bit slower and figure out the best way to do that. And for now, this kind of pivot that we've made is helping us get this directory up and running faster that we can put in front of real people in the community for feedback. which is a really big step forward for us, which is really good. Before we move on to the next section, would anyone like to ask any questions about that? Okay, feel free to put some in the chat or message me separately if you'd like to as well. But if not, I'll hand over to Alicia.
Thank you. So as Alex mentioned, to start this new bit of work, we needed to bring in accurate and updated listings. And we did this by using some of the listings that we pair wrote with providers and added these into Outpost. This let us see for ourselves how easy it would be to add listings for more complex services. And from this, we were able to see what works well and some improvements that we could make to make it easier for providers to add or update their listings in the future. Outpost already meets quite a lot of those needs of those service listings, but there are some complex services that we have that don't quite fit into that existing structure. We've cheated as this isn't really a demo, but we will show you a draft listing that we've added to Outpost, and we'll talk you through that.
That's sort of a demo. It's a real page. Can you let me know if you can see that?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, lovely.
Cool. So as you can see, it's quite straightforward to add a listing, the organisation of that listing, and a description. But as you can see, this description isn't a rich text editor, so it's quite hard to see a full description if you're adding a longer description, and we cannot format it either. So for many of our listings, bulleted lists would make it easier for people to scan and to find out more about the service being offered and if it's right for them. And some listings like this also have very specific eligibility criteria. So being able to format those in this would be really important. And then as we keep scrolling down, you can see that you can add a website link. Having a set field for this also means there's less risk of people putting the same link in multiple places and then that having to be updated in multiple places. And you can also select if it requires a referral, which this listing does, and choose from a predefined category and subcategory for that listing. And then as we move down to locations, you can see that you can add multiple locations. So this is where this listing itself gets a bit more complicated, as the program that we're adding in here can run at multiple leisure centres which each have different opening times. And the date and start time of these programs are also dependent on when the person's been referred and their preferred centre and time to attend those sessions. So as we move further down, you can see that we have opening times, which again is dependent on the centre that you choose. For this one, we've decided to keep it blank just because of the complications with how many different locations there are and the varying times that people would need to choose from. And we'll just show you the rest of the fields on this page now before we talk a bit more about the opportunities that we've spotted. As you can see, there are also some fields in there that are specific to other areas like the local offer, which this one isn't. That is our listing page.
I'll just go back to the presentation.
So yeah, as I mentioned, there are a few things that we could change that would make it quicker for providers to update listings. And there are also a few things that could improve accessibility and usability for users of the directory. So as we added listings, we started to make notes about what could be simpler, and we then prioritized these parts. Some of these things are already on the Outpost roadmap as well. So the improvements that we've decided are really important for us and that we're prioritizing are formatting of descriptions, so we can add things like subheadings and bulleted lists for longer listings. Listing services that happen on a specific date, services that have irregular schedules and uploading documents to listings as well. And other things that we've noted that we could include are things like the spell check, adding descriptions to organisations, clearly labelling if something is in person or online, allowing admins to add more accessibility or suitability options, personalising listings with logos, images and videos, call to action buttons that take people to a booking on an external site, and different schedules for different locations within one listing. So those are just a few of the things that we are looking at the moment. But I'll now pass on to Steve, who's going to talk a little bit more about our plan for migrating services to the new directory.
Thanks a lot, Alicia. Okay, I'm Steve. I work in health and adult services, and so we're currently planning how we'll migrate services to the new directory from the old directory currently provided by Open Objects, and we've been mapping out a process for how we can engage with service providers in the community to move their listings over to the new directory, and we want to make it simple and quick. So I'll just briefly explain this flowchart in front of you, and there are two streams there: services we want to migrate and services we no longer want to migrate. The top line is for those that we want to migrate, so we carry out an automatic data import, email the providers telling them what's changing, invite them to create an account on the new directory, provide them with training materials. They log in, edit their listings, approved by RBG admin, and the listing goes live. And the bottom line, that's for the services we don't want to migrate. So we contact the service providers, we explain that we're creating a new directory and what the new criteria is. We explain that their listing as it is doesn't meet the new criteria. There's an option to be included following amendments, and Greenwich can help with that. And going forward, they're either included following amendments or they remain omitted. So examples of omitted ones might be ones that are council services that are already listed, that kind of thing, or services that aren't relevant to residents in the borough. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so on the adult side of the directory, there are around 400 service providers we need to contact for this phase. And some are already aware of this work and others won't know that it's happening. So when we email them, there's a risk that they won't engage or respond to us. So how can we make it more likely that service providers will engage with this process? And we might need your help with this. So next slide, please. Okay, so how can we make it more likely that service providers will engage in this process? So these are some of our thoughts so far. Linking up with Metro Gavs to get the message across. Now, Metro Gavs are an umbrella organisation for the local voluntary and community organisations in Greenwich. We could organise local events or a drop-in for people that want more support or more information on this. We have a commissioning team. We could link up with people who work in the commissioning team to help us spread the word. But what we're interested at this point in the show and tell is your ideas. So you could raise your hand and let us know through conversation, or put your thoughts down in the chat. So we're just going to pause here to give you a few moments to contribute. Yeah, I agree with that, Alex. We had quite a good discussion last week with our collaborators who came up with some very creative ideas and solutions to this. And
I can see that we have some colleagues from other councils. I wonder if any of those have, if any of our colleagues have been through this and could share some wisdom.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. That's good. Could you show what good looks like, what the benefits of doing this are for the user, for the provider? Yeah, I think we'll have that in hand as part of our information pack. Lingjing, 400 providers. Do we want to start? Oops, got him. Do we want to start with the ones who are more engaged or willing to engage, change?
Yeah, also just add on, because I'm thinking you probably need to build some early adopters, right, to show the benefits. And I also wonder whether you can using the early adopter providers to spread into their network, so you naturally recruit them to help you to engage with more people. I guess it would be really interesting to see a model where it's also quite self-organizing, but maybe initially quite heavy hand-holding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're getting quite a few through here. Nicholas Ward, clear guidance and intent in the comms, being clear on the provided benefits were what we focused on at ECC. I think that's Essex. Lydia, where they currently getting referrals from. You can work, let's move again. You can work with people within RBG who are doing referrals. Yeah. Alex, yeah, Essex have been very helpful with thinking about this. Big shout out. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Because of the pre-existing relationships, Lydia. Yes, they're moving quite fast. Okay, we have a realistic deadline. Yeah, is an interesting one in terms of psychology. Often you get big peaks in demand on the days when the requests are sent out. Yeah, without much in between. That's true. Connie, point of contact for each service provider is your point of contact at the Woolwich Centre, Waterfront Centre, part of getting people to own the content. Yeah, sense of urgency. Are you running a comms campaign on the new directory? We will be, yes, after the launch. If you are, you mentioned this as something you might increase traffic to the directory. Yeah, Alicia. Yeah, the community centres have been really helpful so far, and we're keen to pair writing listings with us. And they've also signed up to test Outpost with us, so there'll be a good starting point.
I do love that suggestion from Connie about social norms. You don't want to be left out. It really does play to people's basic behavior. I like that one a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alex, I think I'd be very interested in any behavioural nudges we can use. Ensure we talk between the GCD and the website work, so that we're not asking the same service providers to update things at different places too. That's true. There are a lot of overlaps and linking. How do you incentivize people to do some tidying up? What are the benefits? That's a really good response we've had there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone. Are we good to move on, Steve?
Yeah.
Thank you. Over to Jenny.
Hello. So one of the pieces of work we've been doing recently is working on a design system. And for those of you that are not familiar with what a design system is, it's basically a collection of reusable components guided by clear standards, which could be assembled together to build any number of applications. Components, for example, could be like a button, a text field, and things like that. So when you look at a page, it's made up of a lot of little bits, and those are the different components and elements. And a lot of these standards actually can help manage design at scale. It helps us to reduce redundancy, but also provides consistency. And in comparison, I guess maybe some of you have heard or know of, like when you design a site, there might be something called a style guide, for example, which tells you the colors to use or font to use and how to apply them, and how not to apply them. The difference is a style guide might actually be part of the design system, and it's more the instructions, whereas a design system provides more the reusable element to it as well. And really, the components provide you with the building blocks so that you can start building your products and different pages. And just to give a little bit of illustration, a design system is a system, so it involves, it can involve many different things. This is just an example. The image on the left there just shows you what could be part of a design system. So there's many different types of components and things, as well as code as well. That I think that's a big thing. And on the right, just give you some examples of other design systems, WK being probably the most well-known one. As you can see, it shows what one of the components and the type of information that it has there. And a lot of other local councils as well also have their own at the moment. And just to talk about what we've been doing and where we're kind of starting. So if you've been following along with us, we've had some previous design work already. So we have prototypes specified and parts of the journey kind of designed. We're now going back to those wireframes and really pulling stuff apart and breaking apart what are all the components that we have across the different pages, so that we can start documenting, all the different types that we have already. We're also, because the website team is redesigning the website, one of the things that we've been doing is connecting up with them about their designs, because essentially we don't have a design system at Greenwich, but the goal is to have one main design system so that we don't create one just for the community directory and a separate one for the website, but there's one core design system. So as we've been designing in the GCD, we're in parallel with the website team, we've been kind of trying to connect up and seeing where, for example, we have common components that we could maybe design in more similar ways and connect up and align, and see where there's maybe more unique components that we're each using that we don't have to design so closely with. So that's kind of ongoing work that we've been doing. And I think one of the things just to go over about why we are design systems are actually quite a lot of work in the beginning, especially if we don't have anything. And of course, they are a lot of work actually to keep them going as well and being used. But some of the big benefits and why we're doing this work now is to streamline development and design work, so things can be created easily, quickly, and at scale. So, because we will have hopefully a library of components and guidelines already with code in there, it'll make it much more easier to reuse later when we need to create some new pages or other products within Greenwich. And it saves a lot of time as well, so we don't have to design everything from scratch again, all the details around stuff, which means we can actually have more time to spend on working on other challenges other than these really detailed things about how we're going to design a button, for example. It also just helps us to visualize as well how things will look and work, so making it much quicker to understand about what we're going to build. It decreases time spent on the code base because you already have some of these things already there that you can pick up and reuse. And it also, the second thing, it promotes consistency across products and channels so that we have maybe, a few ways, that we've decided we want to design a button. And if we're designing a new product, they don't have to create a whole new button. But we kind of keep it within the same family of stuff. So it looks like it is a Royal Borough of Greenwich product, for example. A third thing, it also helps get everyone on the same page within the team. So, for example, if we design a button or a checkbox, and we've specified how it looks and works, everyone will know when we say we're going to use a certain checkbox, what does that mean? What does that look like? It also will help us improve our design quality and also ensures accessibility is built in. Within a design system, it's also all the components and things that you design and specify in it should be tested with users to make sure it's usable, but also making sure that we've built it in a way that meets accessibility requirements as well, so that it becomes a trusted and main source. So you can always go back to the design system, pick a couple components up, and that they are accessible, that they are usable as well. And then one of the last things is probably providing like a shared knowledge base and encouraging collaboration as well. So even though, the design system within a product, as we were working on GCD, for example, the main users will be the developers and the designers, but actually it goes much wider than that as well. So it could become a knowledge base for many different people to understand how we design our products, where do you start? And it really encourages people to collaborate more because you have one system to work from and to contribute to and iterate on together as well. So there's a lot of benefits. But yeah, we're starting from the very beginning. So we'll see.
Thank you, Jenny. Just before we move on, any questions on the design system from anybody? I'll take that as a no, but do feel free to message in the chat afterwards. So a brief word on next steps. It has been a busy 4 weeks. These are selected highlights of what we have achieved. Over the next few weeks, we are going to start the hard work of engaging our service providers, hence the call to action to you today to give us some ideas on how to do that effectively. We are going to create the information and advice pages that we need for the support for adults section and work that we actually started this morning. And I guess the big event is that we plan to actually start testing the directory with different users. This is a consequence of the decision to use Scout in the short to medium term. It does mean we can move much faster, and our hosting platform will actually be ready in a few weeks as well. We were assured this morning, so things will be coming together very nicely. But in parallel, we're also going to think about the longer term strategy to remove Scouts. How best do we do that? As ever, if you would like to stay in touch or ask us some questions, we publish week notes every Monday. We run a show and tell every 4 weeks, but also get in touch with myself or with Alex anytime that you have any questions or any comments, or you'd like to know more about what we're doing and how we are doing it. We also have a microsite, which is at royalgreenwich.gov.uk/community-directory-rebuild, where you can see all of our previous show and tells. And that is it for today. Are there any final questions from anyone? Jennifer.
Sorry, apologies, it's an error there. It's a good
no,
show. Thank you very much. I haven't been for a while, and so it was nice to get the update from everyone. So thank you.
No, thank you very much for coming. If there are no other questions for the moment, in the words of Baroness Boothroyd, time's up. Thank you very much, everybody, and catch you again in a few weeks.